The Caitlin Clark train isn't slowing down, Ben. The preseason return to the University of Iowa for the sensation that is Caitlin Clark. It was her and the Indiana Fever versus the Brazilian national women's basketball team. 1 o'clock Eastern on a Saturday on ESPN, 1.3 million viewers. Um, it feels like every time I think like, oh, that'll be a cool little event, like whatever, we'll see. The number, the attention, the virality, it blows my mind every single time that she does something new and gets a new opportunity. It's always bigger than I think it's going to be.
It's crazy. I actually, something I've thought a lot about in terms of Caitlin Clark and like the way we cover her. And, last year there was just so much bullshit with everything that was happening through no fault of her own, but off the court with the comments in the media and some of the stuff going on with her and the players. And that tends to get like focused on. And I think like the two things we may be undercovered, including us at Awful Announcing, is like one, she lived up to the hype. Like she had like an all WNBA caliber rookie season. And two, like that surge in popularity that they experienced at Iowa and through the final 2 seasons of her college career translated to the WNBA. Like there was real tangible popularity that surged with her coming into the WNBA. And so I think now, like, kind of the natural conversation is like, okay, is this sustainable or was this like a thing of curiosity? And all indications are this is now totally sustainable. Like the fact that this is not only carrying over into year 2, but carrying over into her preseason games. And I know this was kind of a special circumstance with her returning to Iowa, but still, like, I can't recall anything like this from an NBA standpoint in terms of just like instant impact in the league. Like you'd have to go back to Magic and Bird, I would think.
Yeah, if you're talking about the where it started versus where it's at, for sure.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, LeBron obviously and Steph have been huge draws, but they kind of take that crown back and forth from each other. They're not singular forces, and they were starting post LeBron or post Jordan, at least LeBron was, where they were almost just getting it back to some of where it had been, not catapulting it up. So yeah, I mean, but the preseason, like, people have been posting all over that, this would be the third highest rated NBA preseason game on television ever, behind a couple of different LeBron preseason games. I looked back at some of the Grizzlies Thunder, which was like the lowest viewed postseason first round series from this year's NBA playoffs, and it was on TNT, not even NBA TV, so pretty close to 1-to-1 of a cable network like this ESPN game was. And it's like 2/3, 70% of a playoff game featuring the league MVP in Shai Gilgeous-Alexander, and she's doing that for the lesser league, quote unquote, in the preseason against a Brazilian national team where no American has any real awareness of who those players are, and they got killed. The game
was 108 to 44.
So it's like there's nothing to watch outside of I just want to see this person as much as I possibly can. Like, that is about as distilled of an illustration of her popularity as you could possibly get, because nobody was watching that for the basketball.
No, and that's that's a part of this. Like, there's kind of a spectacle aspect to this. I think a big part of it was her going back to Iowa, because so much of her popularity is rooted in her college career. But like, it's not just that. Like, all indications, right, are that this is going to carry over into the regular season. The Fever have basically their entire schedule is going to be broadcast on a national basis. They totally expanded all of the local television markets that Tegna is carrying the games around Indianapolis. Like, this is a really big deal. And I think it's going to be really interesting to just see, like, especially to me, what really stands out, and I think we've talked about this already, is that a year from now, ESPN has to fill its baseball void. Like, they're losing Sunday Night Baseball a year from now. And like the cleanest way that they can replace Sunday Night Baseball is to give the WNBA a national spotlight on Sunday nights. And I think that when you look at the way that they're going to replace baseball on their schedule between the end of the women's tournament at the start of April and heading into the WNBA schedule, like I think you could make a pretty strong argument that them being willing to walk away from their MLB contract was a vote of confidence in women's basketball. And I think a lot of that ties into Caitlin Clark and the surge in popularity that the league has experienced over this last year and a half or so.
Absolutely. I mean, I think that this should get the level of media attention in terms of it's not 1-to-1. There's fewer games there, whatever else, but like this is Jordan and the way that we saw Turner and NBC rally around that. If the success follows as we expect it to, at some point the popularity will plateau. But the other part of it is like, I think the comparison that we're going to see this year is more so of the her senior season at Iowa and the buildup we saw from junior to senior season. That's what I think we're going to see from year 1 to year 2 is now they're going to be great. I know Iowa made the Final Four both of those seasons, but they made the championship game both of those seasons. But like they, on the, more of a basketball, less of a media side, like they got some veterans in the building. They are expected to be a decently high playoff seed. They're going to actually be winning like we saw in the second half of last season. They're not just going to get swept out of the playoffs, most likely the way that they did last year. Like it's on its way up still. And so if any of these places, obviously next year's when the new media deal goes into effect, but if I'm ESPN or CBS or ION or whatever the current partners are, I know the schedules are already set, but I'm clearing everything out. Like I'm making sure that these games are in a perfect position to succeed. And we've seen ESPN especially build up like more studio coverage, more, kind of secondary shoulder type stuff to just promote this, because you want to be seen as the place to watch her. Like no matter what else is going on, that's the priority. And we're already kind of seeing it.
Well, let me ask you 2 questions about this, because you are a little more in depth when it comes to your WNBA knowledge than I am. One, we'll start here. Like, can this season be about basketball for her? Like, obviously there's always going to be bullshit. Like we see the way LeBron gets covered and the NBA gets covered at large. But like you mentioned, like the Fever obviously have improved a lot in the offseason. Like, can we get through a season where like the focus is on her and the Fever and how they're doing, as opposed to like her and Angel Reese or what Pat McAfee says about her?
I think it will be more about basketball because it took her a little while to get started last season. She had a pretty bad first half, and then after the Olympic break, which probably ended up being a blessing in disguise for her, not having to go to Paris and just ride the bench, but actually just get to rest because of, the college schedule goes right into the pro schedule for the women. And then she just was amazing all the way through the rest into the playoffs. But I think that'll help. I could easily see her, though, I could easily see her becoming an MVP candidate. And then it's going to be another mess. Like, I almost think the success will allow the conversation to be more about basketball, but that won't make it less bullshit, I guess would be my prediction. Because even if there's less of the racial or do they appreciate her enough, or should she make the Olympic team, or is she more famous and should she be the next Y or Z player, I guess it'll be less ridiculous to ask those questions and try to talk about it because she's not going to be a rookie. But the conversations won't go away because she actually will be able to back it up now. Does that make sense? Do you agree with what I'm saying?
Yeah, well, that's kind of where I was heading with this, is like, what's like could she, like, I think I saw a tweet from you about her and in MVP odds or MVP takes about her. Like, could she be an MVP candidate this year? Like, is that a viable jump for her to make. Like she was, I think, first team all WNBA. She led the league in assists. Like it seems like a kind of a shorter leap right now than you would think for most NBA players coming into the league in year 2.
Well, that's the thing, right? Like the reason it's somewhat realistic is because these players just come in older, so they're very good right away. Like rookies have won MVP in the WNBA before. It's just a little different because they're as old as guys in NBA in their third, fourth, fifth seasons, even as rookies or second year players. It's just different. But I mean, if the Fever jumped, they already made the playoffs and they were really young and not that good last year. Now they added like 2 or 3 real vets that are like forwards and wings, like the right type of players around her. And all the young players got a year older, including her. They're going to be a good team. And I just checked FanDuel while you were asking. She's the favorite right now.
Yeah. I mean, she'll have the narrative on her side.
Exactly. And that's where I think the ugliness is going to come in is like if she's, statistically, team success, the stuff we would normally think about with MVP, like if she's what, a really analytical person would say is maybe the 3rd or 4th most valuable player in the league, that's going to be enough to have her win it because of all the voters who don't pay attention to anybody but her or just like the story of it. Like that's where it's going to get ugly. And I think the players and, media who want to side with the other players are going to have a valid case to be kind of frustrated by that. That's going to be pretty unprecedented, even with how popular other players have been throughout sports. That just doesn't happen very often, but I really think it could with her.
And then my other question about this would be, like, she is established. She is a draw. She is a star. She moves the needle. Like, I know there are a lot of good players in the WNBA, great players in the WNBA. I know she's not even the best player in the WNBA. And I know, like, Angel Reese is not on her level in terms of star power, but, like, Angel Reese is a pretty fairly famous athlete at this point, even in her career entering year 2. But, like, with Paige Beckers coming in and with Asia Wilson winning MVPs, like, where does this league stand in terms of sustainable star power outside of what we already know about Caitlin Clark being a proven draw?
I think it's getting to a better place. I mean, I think there's a little bit of a blip here where Caitlin and Paige and to a lesser degree Angel were really good and really famous dating back almost to high school, if not at least early in their college careers. I would say the only person really left that rivals that would be Juju Watkins, who tore her ACL, and that's a little bit of a setback for her being kind of the next one. But, like, we should have already heard about the next, who's the freshman, who's the high school senior that are going to keep that going. And, like, that's natural for any sport. But I do think, like, this is an era now. This is a generation, and they're going to be the faces for a while. I don't think there's like, oh, and then it'll be such and such, So maybe that's good, maybe that's bad. But it feels like Paige, Caitlin, Angel, Juju, those are going to kind of be the superstars here for a little while that carry the league forward. And, that veteran, the people who are actually like winning championships with Asia Wilson, Breanna Stewart, like they're probably going to be, of course, in the mix. They're not aging out either. But I mean, with Caitlin though, like in general, where do you feel like she sits among like the biggest must see appointment type of spectacles in sports right now? I mean, that's kind of where she's at. Like she's in the across all athletes conversation at this point, not even just basketball, let alone just the WNBA. Like, I can't think of a lot of other things in sports that are going on where it's like, I need to get a bite of that. I need to check my phone to see the highlights. I need to, if I'm at home, I'll watch it. If they're in my city, I'm going. Like, it's messy. And that's a little different with the TV side of it, but he's been a huge draw in terms of attendance and everything. I mean, LeBron, Steph, like those guys, it's not as novel, but they're still obviously up there. Maybe Ohtani. Like, it's what else? Who else is on that list?
I mean, I live 5 hours from Indianapolis, and I've considered like going to a Fever game, like taking my kids to go see the Fever within the last year based on all this. And like, I didn't go to the Royal Rumble in Indianapolis. Like, I am not just driving to Indianapolis willy-nilly. And actually, like, it wound up being the tickets were too expensive because, like, that's how it works with Caitlin Clark. Like, you're not going to get in for cheap into most of these games at this point, even in Indianapolis. And so
even in Iowa.
Yeah. In Iowa, it was like $650 average tickets. Yeah. I saw it sold out in 15 minutes. Like, I would have taken the under on that. But like, she's like, if you get a text like Caitlin Clark has like 30 points in the first half, you're going to turn on the game. It's like, it's her and Steph Curry. Like, it's like, those are the two, I think, athletes who you feel like are just like capable of doing insane things on a nightly basis that you're not going to see anywhere else. So I think, like, from a pure electricity standpoint, she is like toward the top of that list at this point. And I just think in terms of overall influence, like, I thought a really good take earlier this month was, or last month at this point, was Colin Cowherd being aghast that she wasn't on Time's list of the most 100 influential people. And that stood out to me too. When we got through that, we got that list and we were going through it to see which sports figures were on it.
Yeah, did they just get scared off by the hoopla that came with naming her the athlete of the year last year, and they were just like, let's just spread the wealth a little bit and move on from that nonsense?
It must, like, you'd have to think they have some sort of like algorithm where it's like, okay, we can do X number of athletes, X number of basketball players, X number of female athletes. We already did her 6 months ago, but like, she should be on that list. Like, she is one of the most, forget women, she is one of the most influential athletes in the world right now. So that's like, that was just such a glaring omission. So, I mean, whatever, her stock is at an all-time high. It looks like it's only ascending. And that number was just jarring. 1.3 million for a preseason game. Totally jarring.
Completely jarring. The last thing I'll say that I'm looking forward to this year, regardless of the success or MVP or whatever, is one part of the argument that got completely drowned out by the more obnoxious complaints about her talking about, in those Time articles, kind of giving a nod to the historical players that came before her and everything that people said she was overstating it or trying to kind of get in good with people or almost like back her way into an apology for her success and her popularity. I didn't buy a lot of that, but the part of it that I did buy that seemed reasonable to me, that I heard some people say that were making that case, was that she has had to kind of hold back her, like, the insane competitiveness that she very clearly has. Like, I would recommend people, and I don't know if you watched it, Ben, but the interview she did on the David Letterman Netflix show, My Next Guest Needs No Introduction, and some clips from it went viral. But they did like a bowling thing, and then they did this game where they were throwing different colored grapes into a wine glass. And it's the same as the Last Dance clip of Jordan playing the coin game with the security guard. She's like just a motherfucker. Like, she's like legit wanting to beat David Letterman's ass at this grape throwing game, and he's 70 and not even trying. You know what I mean? Like, and I think like the showmanship you saw with her taking the not even logo shots, more like half court shots in that Brazil game. I don't think she's going to do that in a real pro game, but like doing that, shouting out Ryan Rocco on the ESPN broadcast in real time, and just the confidence of all of that, the kind of like bravado of all of that, I do think we're going to see a little more of that start to come out, and that's just going to kind of put it over the top. And I'm looking forward to it because, like, I want to see that. She has every right to be as confident as she is, and people love it.
Yeah, I haven't seen the Letterman clip. I did read, though, the Wright Thompson profile from her senior year at Iowa, and I think you got it felt very Kobe-ish. It felt like there was a lot of Kobe influence in her personality and in her general demeanor. And then to watch, I mean, I followed her since her junior year of college and through her senior year, and then to see her in her rookie season, and it was just inherently awkward. And like there was the stuff with Diana Taurasi and what Diana said and however that was perceived. And just like, it was always going to be this awkward thing where she was coming into the league as a rookie, but already the most famous player in the league and somebody with enormous expectations. And I think even in this preseason, like you've seen like the comment she left on Lexi Hull's Instagram, making fun of her like tanning before media day. And like, just you're starting to see that confidence and that bravado peek its way out. And I also think like, I think this year you'll start to see it. And then like by the time she gets to year 3, it's like the league is going to be filling with other players who have grown up looking up to her already. Like it's, we forget like how quickly like this league is going to be her and a bunch of people who were idolizing her when they were high school players. And so I think you'll see that come out sooner rather than later. And you're already starting to see it come out. But yeah, I think that's another part of all this that has been a little undercovered, is just like how awkward that push and pull was for her last year. And now that she does have that standing as a all league player and as somebody who led the league in assists and just somebody who's here in year 2, like I think you're really going to see her take the reins as the face of the league, as she should.
Yeah. All-Star weekend is in Indy this summer for the W, and it will be more Caitlin Clark for sure.